Hello to all my foodies out there. We are back with another recipe from Baking Yesteryear. Today we are making the Pioneer Brownies. This is actually one of the last recipes from the 1900s chapter. We have three recipes left in this chapter, including the Pioneer Brownies. After this, we have the hot cross buns and the hermits, and then we will move on to the next chapter. However, I do want to say I am going to skip the hot cross buns for now, and I will come back to it. Just currently, I don't really have a good time to make the hot cross buns. They do take some time to make, and just right now with some scheduling things, I just don't have the time to do it. But we will come back to that when I do have a good day to make those. But for now, we will be making the brownies, which a brownie is always nice to make. I am looking forward to making the brownies because I do enjoy brownies. However, I'm not as excited with this recipe as I have been with some of the other ones, just because I've made brownies before, I've had brownies before. This is not anything new or different for me, but I am excited to try a different recipe for the brownies. So let's get started. Alright, so for the brownies, we've got some vanilla, eggs, some butter, we've got some baking chocolate here, sugar, flour, and some walnuts. We are going to get started with the sugar and the butter, and I will be right back. Alright, so I have the butter and the sugar all mixed in together. We are going to beat in the eggs, and I will be back. Alright, so I've got my eggs beaten in. I did melt my baking chocolate, and we are going to mix that in to the butter and sugar mixture. When I have that done, I will be back. Alright, so we do have the chocolate all mixed in. I do have to say this is looking really, really good. The recipe did say to use a whisk to mix in the chocolate. I did find it easier to use a spoon instead of the whisk, but that is just me. Next, we are going to mix in the vanilla, and I will be back. Alright, so I've got the vanilla mixed in. We are going to mix in our flour. So this has been a really easy recipe to make, and so far has been turning out really good. Brownies typically are easy to make. I know I have another recipe for brownies that I do tend to make a lot when I make them from scratch, which honestly I don't do often. I do typically just end up using a box mix when I make brownies, just because it is a little quicker, a little easier, a little simpler and everything, but there's nothing wrong with homemade brownies either. Like I said, I do have a recipe that I do make when I make brownies from scratch. Just not something I make a lot because of the box mixes. I am going to get this finish mixing in my flour and add the walnuts, and I will be back. All right, so I have my walnuts mixed in, and I did put the batter in my pan here. The recipe did say to line the pan with parchment paper and then grease the sides. I did not use parchment paper and just greased my entire pan. I typically don't use a lot of parchment paper when I'm baking, but it does kind of depend on what I'm making. For brownies, usually I just grease the pan and pop them in the oven, and they've always been fine. Hopefully these will as well, but we will get these in the oven and see how they are when they are done. All right, so I have my brownies out of the oven. They look really good. I'm going to let them cool and then I'm going to cut myself a piece and I will let you know how they are. They do smell amazing and I can't wait to try them. All right, so I did try the brownies. I thought they were really good. They were a little sweet for me. I think if I make these again, I will cut back on the sugar a little bit. Um, because they were sweeter than I'm used to for a brownie. To the point of like I even double checked the recipe to make sure I had read it right when I was making it. But overall they are really good. They do have a really good flavor. Um, I do think I would make these again. Um, I don't know if I would make them that often. Like I said, I do have another brownie recipe that I typically make when I do make brownies from scratch that I do really, really like. I will share that with you guys at some point on this channel. But typically, if I make brownies, I do tend to use a box mix just because it is quicker, easier. You can mix it up in like 5 minutes and everything like that. Um, I typically don't make a lot of brownies. I do like them. It's just not something I make a lot of. Um, I tend to do a lot of cakes, and a lot of pies. More cakes than pies. I don't know why, but that's just what I do tend to make a lot of when I do baking. Um, but the brownies were good. I do have to say, if I do make them again, I think I would probably leave out the walnuts, just because I am not one of those people who like nuts in my brownies. I will eat them with nuts in them, like, and everything. I don't dislike them to the point that I won't eat the brownie, but I do prefer my brownies without nuts. Um, that's just me. There's long-standing debate over with or without nuts for your brownies. Everybody has their own opinion on it. I just prefer them without nuts. Um, but overall, they were good. Um, I still have to say, so far for the 1900s chapter, my favorite is the Santor. But like with a lot of the other ones, I would definitely make these again. Um, but just maybe cutting back the sugar in them a little bit because they are super, super sweet for a brownie and leaving out the walnuts in them. Um, if you have made the Pioneer Brownies from Baking Yesteryear, please let me know what you have thought of them. Um, Next week, I will be making the Hermits, which is the last recipe in the 1900s chapter. Like I said earlier, I am skipping the hot cross buns for now just because At the moment, I don't have the time to make them, just because of scheduling and everything like that. Um, as soon as I do have a good day to where I can make them, I will go back and give them a try, and we will see how they are. Um, but until then, good times, good food. Bye.